The townsfolk called it the ghost house, and the very name clung to its crumbling facade like moss. They swore it was cursed, a monument to a forgotten tragedy. But to Elara, standing before the sagging porch and boarded-up windows, it wasn't a curse, it was a challenge. And a chance. She had inherited it, a strange, last-minute gift from a great aunt she barely knew. And while everyone saw a ruin beyond redemption, Elara saw a blueprint for a new life. The first year was a battle. She cleared the overgrown yard, battling weeds that had become trees and thorny bushes that seemed to have a will of their own. She pulled back layers of peeling wallpaper to reveal walls with water damage like ancient maps. The air, heavy with the scent of dust and neglect, slowly began to feel lighter as she hauled out rotting floorboards and broken furniture. It wasn't just physical labor. It was a testament to her own endurance. A slow and painstaking process of believing in something no one else did. One rainy afternoon, as she pried up a loose floorboard in the master bedroom, her crowbar struck something solid. It wasn't a joist. It was a small, ornate wooden box, sealed with a brass clasp. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded silk, was a leather-bound journal and a single, tarnished silver locket. The journal, its pages brittle with age, belonged to a woman named Lyra, the last owner of the house. Lyra's elegant script told a story of a house filled with joy and life, but also of a devastating betrayal. Her husband, a respected architect, had taken on a massive public project, a new town hall, and had been accused of embezzling funds. The scandal had crushed him. He had vanished, leaving Lyra and their young son to face the town's scorn. The house, once a source of pride, became a symbol of their public shame. Lyra's final entry spoke of a hidden blueprint, proof of her husband's innocence. But the fear of being seen as desperate or mad kept her from ever revealing it. She had lived out her days in quiet disgrace, her honor lost. A feeling of profound kinship settled over Elara. She understood the weight of public perception, the isolation of fighting a battle alone. This wasn't just a house. It was a story of a life unfairly judged. The locket held a tiny, folded piece of paper with a cryptic inscription. The weight of honor rests where the sun first touches the new dawn. Elara spent weeks poring over Lyra's notes, the house now feeling less like an empty shell and more like a living memory. She saw the same architectural styles and flourishes that Lyra described in her husband's work. The inscription from the locket echoed in her mind. One morning, as the sun rose, she watched its first ray hit the restored window of the main parlor. The light didn't just hit the glass. It created a perfect, shimmering circle on the wall opposite. In the center of that circle was a loose stone in the fireplace. She pulled the stone free, and behind it, tucked into a small cavity, was a rolled-up set of blueprints. They were old, brittle, and meticulously detailed, proving that Lyra's husband had indeed accounted for every single penny of the project. He had been a victim of a rival's treachery, a secret kept for generations. With the blueprints in hand, Elara took them to the town's historical society. The old men and women who had whispered about the ghost house their entire lives now stared in stunned silence. The truth spread like wildfire, finally clearing the name of Lyra and her family. The old house, once a symbol of shame, was now a monument to perseverance and the quiet dignity of a woman wronged. 2 years after she bought it, the house was unrecognizable. Fresh paint gleamed in the sunlight. The restored roof was as straight as an arrow. And the garden bloomed with life. But it wasn't just a beautiful home. It was a testament to Elara's hard work, a beacon of hope for a new beginning. More importantly, it was a home built on an act of honor, finally giving peace to a family long forgotten. And as she sat on the newly built porch, watching the sun set over the town, Elara knew that the house had not only saved her, it had given her a legacy to protect. A gentle knock on the door pulled Elara from her thoughts. It was Thomas, a kind, elderly man who had lived in the house across the street his entire life. He had watched her tireless work with a mixture of disbelief and quiet admiration. "I just wanted to say," he began, his voice soft, "that my mother always spoke of this place. She remembered Lyra. She always said there was more to the story. But no one would listen." He held out a small, framed photograph. It was a faded picture of Lyra, a young woman with a dignified but weary smile, holding a little boy's hand. This was from her grandson. He said she never stopped talking about how she hoped someone would one day see the house not for what it was, but for what it could be. Tears welled in Elara's eyes as she accepted the photo. It wasn't just a house she had restored. She had given a family back their honor and a woman's quiet plea of voice. The ghost of shame that had haunted the property for so long was finally, truly gone. The house no longer stood as a monument to a forgotten tragedy but as a beacon of hope. And a testament to the fact that some truths, no matter how buried, will always find their way to the light. Elara and Thomas stood for a moment, bathed in the soft, golden light of the setting sun. The framed photograph a warm weight in her hands. The once crumbling house behind them seemed to glow with a quiet pride. "Thank you, Thomas," Elara said, her voice thick with emotion. "This means so much." He smiled, a genuine, crinkled smile. "No, Elara. Thank you. You've given this old place its soul back. And in doing so, you've given us back a piece of our history we didn't even know we'd lost." He gestured toward the town, its lights beginning to twinkle in the distance. "I think you'll find this town is a lot warmer now than it was when you first arrived." As Thomas walked back across the street, Elara turned and looked at her home. It was no longer a project, a challenge, or a lonely quest. It was simply home. A place built with her own two hands, on a foundation of perseverance and a renewed sense of honor. The house wasn't just a physical structure. It was a testament to the belief that beauty can be found in broken things, and that a forgotten past can be brought back to life, brick by painstaking brick. She had not only restored a house, she had woven herself into the very fabric of the community, an unexpected guardian of its hidden heart. From the newly restored porch, Elara watched the last of the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and fiery orange. She reached out, her fingers tracing the smooth, newly painted railing. The air, crisp and cool, carried the scent of freshly turned earth from her garden, and the sweet perfume of the roses she had planted. It had been a long, lonely road, filled with doubt and the quiet disapproval of the townsfolk. But as she stood there, a profound sense of peace settled over her. The house, no longer the ghost house, but simply the house on Willow Creek, felt like a part of her. A physical manifestation of her own journey. Every restored wall, every polished floorboard, every thriving plant in the garden, was a testament to her belief that broken things can be made whole again. She thought of Lyra, the woman whose quiet dignity had resonated through the decades. Elara had not just fixed a house. She had given a voice to a silent tragedy and brought a lost honor back to light. And in doing so, she had found her own. This house, a place of second chances, was a home not just for her, but for the quiet, enduring hope that lives in us all. The house didn't just stand, it hummed. It hummed with the history Elara had uncovered, with the quiet dignity of Lyra, and with the vibrant energy of a future she was building brick by brick. The town, which had once eyed her with suspicion, now waved as they passed. People stopped to admire the blooming garden and share stories of their own families who had lived in the area for generations. Elara found herself part of a community in a way she never expected. The local baker brought her fresh bread. The grocer would save her the best produce. And children would stop by to ask about the magical house that had changed so much. One evening, the town mayor came by. Not to talk about the old scandal, but to thank her. "You didn't just restore a house, Miss Elara," he said, hat in hand. "You restored our faith in ourselves, in our past, and in the idea that some things are worth fighting for, no matter how hopeless they seem." As he left, a cool breeze rustled through the restored willow tree in the front yard. The tree, like the house, had been withered and forgotten. But Elara had pruned it, nourished its roots. And now it stood tall and proud, its long branches swaying gently in the night. The house, no longer the ghost house, but simply Elara's house, was a living testament to her quiet defiance and unwavering hope. It was more than a home. It was a promise kept. Months turned into seasons, and Elara's house became a gathering place. Neighbors would drop by with fresh-baked pies or vegetables from their gardens. The children who had once been warned away now played hide and seek in her blooming yard, their laughter echoing through the restored rooms. The old house, once a symbol of shame and decay, was now the heart of the community. Elara had found something more than just a home. She had found her purpose. She started a small workshop in her garage, teaching others how to restore old furniture, sharing the skills she had learned through trial and error. Her reputation grew, not just as the woman who fixed the ghost house, but as a person who could see the potential in something others had discarded. One snowy evening, as a fire crackled in the hearth, Elara sat in a comfortable armchair, a cup of tea in her hands. The room was warm, filled with the scent of pine and cinnamon. She looked up at the portrait of Lyra she had hung over the mantel, the faded photograph of a dignified woman who had fought a silent battle. Elara had not only given her story an ending but had given it a new beginning. She had honored the past by building a future, proving that hope, perseverance, and resilience are not just words, but the very foundation on which a life and a home can be beautifully rebuilt. Years passed, and Elara's house became a landmark, a living story told to newcomers and a beloved memory for those who had watched its transformation. The town's historical society, with Elara's help, created a small exhibit dedicated to Lyra and her husband, finally honoring their memory and correcting the record. The blueprints, framed under glass, were a testament to the truth that had been buried for so long. Elara never left. She had put down roots deeper than any of the flowers in her garden. Her hair, once a cascade of youthful brown, now had streaks of silver. And the hands that had once ached from pulling up weeds were now soft and calloused from a lifetime of creation. The house was no longer just her home. It was a testament to a life well lived, a story told in every restored floorboard and every blooming rosebush. And so, the story of the ghost house ended not with a whimper, but with a celebration. It became a beacon, a quiet reminder that with patience and perseverance, one can not only rebuild what has been broken but also honor the past while paving the way for a beautiful and resilient future. Years turned into decades. The silver in Elara's hair had become a soft white halo, and the once firm hands that had rebuilt the house were now gentle and a little gnarled. She still lived in the house on Willow Creek, a place so full of memories it felt alive. It wasn't just a home. It was the keeper of her life's work and the legacy of a quiet woman named Lyra. One crisp autumn morning, a young woman with a sketchbook and a backpack stood hesitantly at the end of the driveway. She was a student from a nearby university, studying historical architecture, and she had heard the legend of the ghost house and the woman who had brought it back to life. Elara saw her from the window and, with a knowing smile, went out to greet her. "Hello," the student said, her voice a little shy. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm doing research on old homes and I was told this one has a story." "It does," Elara said warmly. "Would you like to hear it?" For the next 2 hours, Elara sat on the porch swing, the same one she had built all those years ago. She told the student everything about finding the house in ruins, the long, hard work of restoration, the discovery of Lyra's journal, and the blueprints that cleared her family's name. She spoke of the town's slow acceptance and how the house had taught her to find beauty in what others had given up on. The student listened, captivated, her pen flying across the pages of her notebook. She wasn't just sketching the house. She was sketching its soul. When the story was finished, the student looked up, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and respect. That's incredible. You didn't just fix a house. You brought history to life and gave a family back their honor. I just gave it a second chance, Elara said, her gaze drifting to the window of the master bedroom where she had found the box. That's all any of us really need. The student packed up her things, her heart and mind full of a new understanding of history, humanity, and hope. As she walked away, she looked back at Elara, a small but powerful figure sitting on the porch of the beautiful old house. She wasn't just the woman who had rebuilt a house. She was a living testament to the fact that some things, like truth, dignity, and a good heart, are never truly lost. Elara watched her go, a sense of peace washing over her. She had not only restored the house and Lyra's honor, but she had passed on the story, ensuring that the legacy of hope and resilience would continue to be told for generations to come. The house was no longer just a home. It was a living monument to the power of one person's belief in the impossible. Months later, the university students' project, a beautifully illustrated thesis titled "The Architecture of Hope," was published. It wasn't just a dry academic paper. It was a compelling story, with sketches and photographs that showed the house's transformation, piece by painstaking piece. It told the tale of Lyra's lost honor and Elara's quiet heroism. The book went on to win a prestigious historical preservation award. News of the award reached the quiet town on Willow Creek. Suddenly, reporters and history enthusiasts began to arrive, all wanting to see the house and meet the woman who had restored it. Elara, who had always preferred her solitude, found herself the reluctant center of attention. She welcomed them all with the same gentle grace, sitting on her porch and sharing her story. And Lyra's, with anyone who would listen. The house wasn't just a home anymore. It had become a beacon, drawing people from all over who were searching for a similar sense of purpose and a belief in second chances. One afternoon, a tall, well-dressed man in his late 70s came to the door. His eyes, a shade of blue that looked both weary and kind, took in every detail of the house. "It's just as my grandmother described," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your grandmother?" Elara asked, her heart beginning to pound. "Lyra's grandson," he said, tears welling in his eyes. "My mother told me the story of the house, of how my grandfather disappeared and how my grandmother's heart was broken. I never thought I'd see it look like this again." He pulled out a worn photograph from his wallet, a picture of a little boy and his mother. It was the same one Thomas had given Elara years ago. "I've carried this with me my whole life." He told her how he had spent years trying to find out what happened to his grandfather, never knowing that the answer was hidden in the very home he had been raised in. He thanked Elara profusely, his gratitude a deep, profound thing that went beyond words. Elara smiled. "It was my honor," she said simply. As the old man walked away, a sense of closure washed over her. The final piece of the story had been placed. The house had not only restored a family's honor but had brought a long-lost descendant home. The circle was now complete.